Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about a new set of laws that have been introduced in Canada that would make online hate speech a crime. Now obviously online people will genuinely say some of the worst, most vile things you can think of. If you've been pretty much anywhere on the internet ever, you've probably seen some pretty messed up stuff get said. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. I don't know if you guys ever played like old Call of Duty games, but the things that people would say in those game chats, my 12-year-old mind was just permanently burned with the different things that I heard in those lobbies. But we are living in a little bit of a different world, I think, than when I was 12. There's been a lot of things that have happened, especially here in the West over the last few years, that have like heightened tensions between different groups of people. And so hate speech has kind of become something that's like in the forefront of society again, right? Like racial issues, religious issues, gender issues, these things have like kind of popped up again. And you have, I guess, this push in culture to like kind of sterilize everything and make sure that people don't say anything offensive, and that even like statues of people that have been considered like historically evil are torn down. You know, we've seen, especially like here in the United States with like Confederacy statues. So there's been like this fighting going on between like two distinct groups of society, a lot of like differences between them. And even though a lot of it hasn't really taken place in Canada, Canada has been kind of proactive in trying to, I think, maybe prevent these kinds of things from happening. People are going to say horrible shit, and I don't think a lot of them really care about any sort of fine or any sort of punishment. I mean, there's a lot of different things to consider, but first, I want to introduce the sponsor of today's video. Today's video is sponsored by Scentbird. Scentbird is a fragrance subscription service that will give you the opportunity to shop from over 600 brands. You'll be able to choose a new designer fragrance every month for just $16. Scentbird carries Prada, Gucci, Versace, indie brands. It doesn't matter, Scentbird has it. This month alone, I got Black Bold by Kenneth Cole, Abercrombie & Fitch's Fierce Cologne, and my personal favorite, Commodity Velvet, which makes you smell like how you would expect a rich old man to smell. But instead of $16, your first month can be $11 if you use coupon code OPTIMUS for 30% off at the link on the screen. Get yourself smelling right, go get yourself a subscription over on Scentbird today. Thank you to Scentbird for sponsoring this video. You also have to consider that this kind of law would never happen in the United States. It would immediately be deemed unconstitutional. It would be pretty much widely considered a violation of the First Amendment. I don't ever really see something like this happening here in the States, but up north, they are actually proposing this. Now, this would be a $16,000 fine. This is absurd. Let's go ahead and start reading into it. Canada's ruling Liberal government announced on Wednesday that it plans to make online hate speech a crime punishable by as much as $20,000. This is Canadian dollars, so roughly $16,250 in the United States for the first offense, and $50,000 or around $40,600 US dollars for the second. The proposal would punish social media users who broke the law, but exempt social media companies that host such content from fines. The news, first reported by Canada's public broadcaster, comes after a 20-year-old man recently rammed his truck into a family of 5 in Ontario, killing everyone but a 9-year-old, in what Canadian police are saying was an anti-Muslim terror attack. Canada's Attorney General David Lametti assured Canadians that the proposed law would not target simple expressions of dislike or disdain during a virtual press conference on Wednesday that was live-streamed on YouTube. Instead, Lametti said the law is only designed to punish the most extreme forms of hatred that, quote, expresses detestation or vilification of a person or group on the basis of prohibited ground of discrimination. So to kind of clarify this a little bit, it's not gonna, like, let's say someone says something on Twitter that would violate this law. That person, whoever did it, would be found somehow by the police and would be hit with a fine for that amount of money, depending on how many offenses or whatever they've got going on. So Twitter themselves wouldn't get fined for this, right? For, I guess, hosting it or showing it or whatever. The person who actually typed it or whatever, they would be the ones in trouble, which automatically is starting to raise like some concerns, because how is the government going to track like people through their usernames on a widespread scale? Because I'm going to imagine with as many people that there are in Canada, there's not only like 8 people online who are going to be saying what's deemed as hate speech. Like, this is going to have to be a widespread policing through the internet where people can hide their identities quite easily. So, how much police resources is going to get used to kind of like enforce this, right? To make sure that somebody doesn't say something mean on the internet? I mean, yeah, right? Like, I think we can all agree that people saying stupid shit like this online is a problem that needs to be addressed, and like, people should be held accountable for certain things that they say and do. But I'm not necessarily sure how this is even like logistically possible, you know? I mean, especially in areas like, you gotta think, there's probably remote areas of Canada where there's like 3 police officers in the entire like 50-mile radius, right? What if somebody out there says it, right? Are you gonna mail them a check, right? Or mail them a request back for a check? Like, it's starting to sound a little weird when like you really think how deep this law is gonna like impact things and like how odd this all really sounds. Also consider they really only have a plan for it twice, right? Like, yeah, if you do it the first time, here's a fine of what, 16,000 US dollars. Oh, you did it again? Okay, well, here's 40,000 US dollars in a fine. Well, what if they do it a third time, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it going to end up being jail time? Like, are people going to be imprisoned for hate speech on the internet? Once again, how are you going to track them down? You know what I'm saying? For a hate speech online, right? I mean, it's of course different if they got like their full name on their profile, like their location, and tag some family members in it or something. Yeah, that's a little different, but it doesn't sound like it's going to really be possible to actually enforce this. Because if you think about it, like if you have some asshole who really wanted to make a statement, from how loose this law seems kind of written, they could just break through the first 2 times, spend a stupid amount of money on this, in all honesty, but if you're really fucking rich, who cares? And then next thing you know, like, they can just keep doing it after that, or what? Is it jail time? Do they just repeat the cycle for fining? I don't know. But something about it just, it doesn't seem very well thought through. It doesn't seem like they've accounted for all of the different variables that are going to be in this case. And then you also have to think of the most important factor in all of this. What constitutes as hate speech? This is where it gets, like, onto that fine line. I mean, of course, there's certain things where it's, like, very obviously hate speech, right? And there's not really any context that you can say or do that in, and it wouldn't be hate speech. But how often are there going to be cases where they can't really prove the intent behind what someone said, right? I mean, they say it's not going to target, like, simple expressions of dislike or disdain or whatever to kind of protect, like, some of that freedom of speech element, but it's not a very defined list of what's right and what's wrong, you know? So I think the best solution, obviously, is to not be a piece of shit on the internet and, like, not say just, like, horrible shit. But then people are also going to make the argument, right, that, like, do your rights get to really triumph the rights of others? Like, do you think that your perceived right to live in a free space where you don't read or hear anything you dislike, does your perceived right to that really trump someone's right to free expression and speech? It's confusing how everything about this is going to work, and I don't know if this is really something that's going to end up like being a disaster on impact or like what's going on, but the article goes on to state the government headed by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau released a statement on Wednesday outlining the goals of the proposed legislation known as Bill C-36, as well as other steps being taken to defend against online racial abuse. Amend the Canadian Human Rights Act to define a new discriminatory practice of communicating hate speech online and to provide individuals with additional remedies to address hate speech. Add a definition of hatred to Section 319 of the Criminal Code based on Supreme Court of Canada decisions, and create a new peace bond in the Criminal Code designed to prevent hate, propaganda, offenses, and hate crimes from being committed, and make related amendments to the Youth Criminal Justice Act. The government also notes that it will release a, quote, detailed technical discussion paper in the coming weeks to inform Canadians about the nitty-gritty of this proposed law. Quote, online platforms are central to participation in public life and have enormous power over online speech in Canadians' everyday lives. While they allow us as Canadians to stay in touch with loved ones, learn and debate, they can also be used to discriminate, harm, and silence. Stephen Gilbalt, the Minister of Canadian Heritage, said in a statement published online. So I guess this is really all we know right now. We'll see, I guess, what these definitions and what these amendments to these Canadian Human Rights Acts and things will really provide. Hopefully they'll provide a lot more answers than what we really have right now, because this isn't necessarily the most detailed announcement at all. But anyways, that's really it for this video, though. Thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti down below. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus talking about the new Canadian law, and signing out.